Hello, friends. Welcome. What I wanted to talk about today is society and the direction it's really going in at the moment. I mean, I think most of us can see that are getting on a bit, or middle-aged, or whatever, that we can see society is changing for the worst, and there's more and more crime, more and more violence happening in society. People are starting to get frightened to go certain places. Um, and it all comes down to really the basic thing is that respect is being lost for one another. Mankind's got to really start being more sociable, I'd say. To go out and make friends, and people just don't socialize or interact very much anymore as the way they would do unless they know each other well. So one of the fundamental things with being able to bring this world into balance is about bringing, socializing back into action where we do our best to create a positive world, because the world's only created by the people that live on it and the other life, of course, which is in harmony and balance. Only sadly, mankind isn't. And Father God, I was told, asked nothing of us other than one thing, is that we respect him. In other words, address him in a respectful manner. And who doesn't want to be respected? So I feel it's one of the greatest values to have the ability to learn to respect each other and live in peace. And there's a lot of negative things like judging people, discrimination, all these kind of negative things that we are starting to mimic each other, and people are becoming less and less respecting of others. And yeah, there's a lot of good and bad people in the world, and that's the way it is. But if we want to help the needy and the lost sheep kind of thing, those that have lost their way and become quite overwhelmed by the negativity of life that we're going through and quite resentful against it sometimes, we've got to help each other. And, you help people the most in need as much as you can, because if they can improve, so can the rest of us, and learn to do far more sociable things, because we are basically stuck on technology, and it's not healthy for our minds, it's not healthy for our bodies, it's not healthy for our spirits, because we're just sitting around looking into computers or phones these days, and we need to start breaking free of it to be more adventurous, I'd say, and go out and, enjoy ourselves more. So lots more social clubs and stuff where people can go and socialize, and purely for that sometimes, not just somewhere to go and have a drink or a dance, and about interaction, about human interaction. You go there to meet people of like kind, and people with similar interests to yourself. So forming clubs and social networks where we are with those that we have an interest in being with, and sometimes not, because meeting people with a different view of life is quite often expanding to our own minds, because you listen to them and sometimes you can take a part of what they're saying and another part you reject, maybe. So far more respect's needed in society, and socializing, so saying hello to people when you're walking down the street, or if you feel able to, or in a park, and that's the best place to do it, when you're out in a nice park or somewhere. People are far more sociable when they're walking around a park quite often, and you do it within your comfort level. If you're not comfortable saying hello to certain types of people, you just avoid them, and you just say hello, that you're more open to a person that you see, and you just say good morning, and that's it. So just about building the building blocks of a more sociable and friendly and respecting world again. Because if we keep going the way we're going, we're going to end up down there, mate, in hell. We truly are, because it will just keep getting worse and worse and worse, this world, because humanity has really lost interest in, creating a better world, and that's participation and people power that does that. So the only way we can really get beyond the current system, which is really turning us into this, and the current system is a very negative one in many aspects, and other ways it's positive. But we need to drag ourselves out of the quagmire that we're getting into. And there's so many stresses and strains on people that don't need to be there. And life is made so complicated for us that we're forever stressed out and anxious about things, or problems are ever occurring that really don't need to. So simplifying life to have a simpler structure, and the system that governs us needs to be far simpler and far more user-friendly and helpful to us, so that we don't have all these problems all the time. So it's one little step at a time, isn't it, to get to the top of the mountain. But the more of us that go out there and start doing positive towards other people, the better this world's going to get, because it's re-educating ourselves to be more social creatures, because we come from, apes and such like that were far more social as groups, very kind and caring to each other. They had their differences just like we do, but you know what I mean. They got on most of the time because they lived a simple life, and all they had to do was forage for food, and they were procreating and looking after the young and different things like this. So we need to de-stress life and get rid of the overburden of anxiety. And I think this applies to a lot of walks in life, being respectful, because it applies to our work, where we are respectful to our bosses, and it applies to work that our bosses are respectful to us and don't treat us, abuse us, overload us, or do anything that's wrong, because we need to set new guidelines for social care towards each other, and really make the world a lot brighter and better place, I'd say. So yeah, let's do it. Because I'm awoken, and it's just all apparent to me that this world's really heading for catastrophe. And we already know global warming and all the pollution caused by greed and a lack of care is causing a great problem. So one of the greatest things and tools we have as human beings is the ability to love and the ability to care. Because if you have those two things, they can promote a whole load of good things, where we go out and really start helping one another and doing great things that make this world a lot better place to live. Because this world is the first plane of spirit. Now, we are spirits living in a physical container, the body, and our spirit takes on our body, the form of it, and we take on the attributes of the spirit to live on beyond this world as well. So the spirit adds to us, and we add to it as a physical being, because it did not have form before it came to this world, unless you've had a reincarnation, that you have come from a big collective of sparks of spirit that's given to all new life. And it adds to us greatly, and life is all about evolution, as I said, here and hereafter. So this is the place to start turning it round and making it a far more friendly and spiritual place to live, where we can live in peace and harmony with each other. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that, friends. I hope you're having a good weekend. Love and light. Neil.